What we're measuring is once we've plugged this cable device in, what do we have? And then when we change it and we put the new fill material in, the dynamic filtering, then what do we have? That's what we measured for when we did our measurement tests, and that's what we're looking for you to measure, is does it actually make an impact on a connected device? Now, the only thing that's different about this cable is the fill material that we're about to put in it, okay, the dynamic filtering material or the steel shot. And the other thing that's different about this cable is that it doesn't have the glue on the other end. Again, if you really want to know and if you really believe this is all about glue, go ahead and glue the other end in, listen to it like that, and then start from scratch and build another cable identical to it that has just the dynamic filtering. So the only variable of difference that you have is the change of this. Once I've listened to the cable and I've verified, yeah, you know what, it sounds like a cable, pretty much like, you know, all the other cables that I have right now. And then you take and put your funnel in. Now this end here, you want to make sure that that was sealed up really good. The advantage to having a clear tube is that you can see where that ends at. Now you don't want to use this cable long term. I wouldn't recommend anyways. Simply because you've got to make really good selections on things like the hot glue you use. You can't just use any hot glue because it may not adhere properly to the plastic. And if that's the case, then the cable will actually start to come apart on you. And you don't want that. So we've actually filled this up to the point where it is completely full with the fill material. So I'm just going to let the excess out of the cable here, back into the jar. And I'm going to show you a virtual dynamics trick. You can take this cable just as it sits, and you can insert your glue. Okay, you want to have a really good seal, by the way. Now, what we're going to do here, and I didn't bring anything beforehand to be able to do this with, so I'm just going to use my pliers, is I want to increase the amount of internal pressure on the conductor because pressure is part of the thing that creates the vibration, helps it to be able to move off. For example, go back to the two cans and the string in the middle. If you pull tension on that string, it becomes better at moving mechanical vibrations off. So the more tension there is because the particles are sitting close together, the better this cable is actually going to sound. And it'll give you a clearer separation from one instrument to another. So you're going to take this cable and just try to pack this material in as best you can from top to bottom. Okay? You can see that that's dropped. Our material has dropped all the way down to here. So we could actually go ahead and put in a little bit more material. We would want to do that. The reason why you want to do that is because you're going to have a hard time getting the glue to go down quite that far. And you want to make sure that there's as little amount of available space for packing afterwards as possible. Because again, it's going to increase the quality of the sound of that cable. Now, if you don't agree with that, if you don't believe that to be true, of course, because this whole thing is a learning lesson for us, then use a cable and don't pack it and see what it sounds like. And you'll notice that as you pack it, the material, as it gets tighter and tighter and more dense on the inside, it continues to give you a cleaner and clearer sound. What we do at Virtual Dynamics as we're building cables is we actually do that on purpose through several different methods. Now, this is a fairly simple one that we're willing to show you on air here exactly how we do it. You don't have to be a rocket scientist to figure out the other different ways or different things you can do to increase pressure on this conductor to be able to get vibration to be able to move out of it. Now, getting my funnel back in here to top this up again. Now be careful as you're filling this time to watch your fill level. You don't want to overfill it. As you want to try to get it about 2 inches from the conductor itself because you want a fair amount of hot glue in there. So I've got about 3 inches right now. I can tell just by looking at it. Hope you didn't catch that one. Anyways, it's true. The stiffer that you make this cable, the better it's going to sound because the more of dampening properties you're going to be able to put in it. And one of the reasons why you find the Virtual Dynamics cable so stiff is because we know that if we don't make them stiff, we don't give you as good a sounding cable. Because we do apply the same process to all of our cables. And we use different forms, of course. Some of them aren't quite so simple as this, but they're all based on the same idea or technology. This is the fundamental principles of dynamic filtering. So now we've got that cable all filled up, and we're going to fill her up with hot glue. Of course, you want to have a really good hot glue gun. The reason why you want to have a good hot glue gun is to make sure that that glue flows down really good in here and gives you a great seal. So, you want to have this sealed off just as good as you possibly can. And if you have a CD rack, you can hang this on the CD rack in order to no, I'm just kidding. So once you got that all glued up and your glue is final and set, keep it like this until your glue is set up good. So your glue continues to kind of run down towards your fill material. And you should have filled that gap completely in here so that there's no airspace. That'll keep the tension on these beads as nice and tight as possible. And you've completed your very own Power 3. Now again, I want to go over a couple of things with you. The connectors. It's not important what kind of connectors you use really. Yes, connectors make a little bit of a difference, but you're looking for something a little more grand than that. I hope, and this is why we're going to, the base of this is being the fill material. Whatever connectors you use, if you build two cables, one without dynamic filtering and one with, just make sure you use the same connectors, just so that your comparative, or your comparison is close as possible. Now, when you go ahead and fill this cable up with the material, pack it as tightly as possible, make sure that you secure up the ends as good as possible with lots of good glue. And then you can, if you want, you can go ahead and take some braiding and put over top, make your cable look all fancy and pretty like we do in the audio industry. And you basically have created your own Power 3. Now you can take and listen to this up against what it was stock, or if you've built the one without the material inside, you can go back and forth and listen to them over and over again and see what kind of a difference the dampening on the actual cable makes. What am I listening for? You know what, as an audiophile, we'll never really get taught what to listen for. So I'm just going to give you a little bit of an idea of what's going to happen when you put this cable in. The whole idea here is that we're going to try to do two things. We're trying to lower the total amount of harmonics, mechanical vibrations that are happening inside the cable. And as we do that, we're going to hear a little less bloated sound and a better separation in the sound stage. So things are going to tend to be more compacted in the sound stage. A guitar, instead of being really broad and covering the whole sound stage and bleeding towards the speaker and bleeding towards the singer and into other instruments in the sound stage, it will be more defined. Now, the thing, if you can do that also by just lowering the total amount of volume. Okay, you'll also get kind of the same effect. So if we decrease the power level through this cable technology, then that's the effect we're going to get. So using a really, really small conductor, for example, would kind of give you the same sort of overall sound as that. But what we're listening for is an increase in the detail at the point source. So now you should be able to hear the pick hitting the strings, and the pick is going to be much more defined. You're going to be able to hear it breaking off each string better than it ever did before. And with this new found separation in your soundstage, you're going to have an increased amount of detail at that point source. Now that's what the cable is going to sound like initially. You're going to have hopefully a tighter bass. It's going to be a cleaner bass, more true to the natural tone of an actual instrument and not nearly as much boom. Okay, the boom, that big boomy sound comes from distortion. And there's all sorts of ways that it can be created. Certainly harmonics is one of them, and by doing this you're going to be able to fix that somewhat. You're going to get a tighter, crisper bass that's more true to the sound of an instrument. For example, an upright bass or a cello, they never really have a boom, boom, boom. They just have the sound of a resonating string. That sound should almost always come from the point source. Even at those lowest frequencies that they make, you'll always be able to hear them coming from the sound stage. Just like on an electric guitar, an acoustic guitar where the pick hits the strings, everything emanates from that point. That's what your upright bass and your cello should sound like. So these are going to help to be able to give you a cleaner, clearer, more refined bass with better focus. Same thing is going to happen. You're going to have a cleaner vocal. It's going to not be nearly as much bleeding into the things around it, better separation in the sound stage with your vocals. And all this comes basically because what we're doing is we're directly attacking one of the major problems in an audio system, which is vibration that causes distortion. And when you've done this, you're going to have done something that no other cable company is actually claiming to do at this point in time that I'm aware of. And that is to make a product that will make a measurable difference. Did you know that this little cable right here, it is not tens of thousands, you just built it yourself, and you're talking maybe $30 worth of parts. If by chance you built this thing yourself and you put it in your system, you've done something that I don't know that any other cable company has claimed before. You've made a product that should make a measurable difference in the sound of your CD player. That's pretty cool. So you should compare it to other products that you have in your CD player. I don't care if they're $2,000, $4,000, $6,000, $10,000, or $20,000 worth of power cable. Compare what you just made and see what you get for a result. I think you'll like it. I'm Rick Schultz, and welcome to the Audiophile.